The result of being around that man, Sean Puffy Combs, I don't sleep to this day. I have a problem sleeping to this day. Like, yo, man, I'm here to work, man. I ain't sang in a week. I mean, I'm 13 years old, and I'm telling him, look, you're gonna put me in the studio, man. You got Biggie Smalls in there, you got Craig Mack in there. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? We was fighting.
What happened inside Bad Boys halls remained buried for decades, until Usher Raymond, the once wide-eyed teenager turned global superstar, stepped into a federal courtroom and shattered the silence.
Don't hit me no more. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. All you heard was Papa, don't hit me no more. Let's go.
At 14, Usher arrived in Midtown Manhattan believing he'd landed in a mentor's studio, a place to refine his voice, master his stage presence, and soak up the hard-won wisdom of hip-hop royalty.
And I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it
Camp.
was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and non-stop, right?
Nah, not really.
Instead, he entered a cathedral of excess. Marble floors polished to a mirror sheen, breakfast carts stacked with crystal flutes of champagne, and corridors lined with half-dressed strangers who slipped through locked doors like ghosts. They called it Flavor Camp, a branding exercise in living large. Usher thought it was about image. He soon realized it was about control.
I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
But that glittering facade was only the first layer of a story that would shake the music industry to its core. Late one night, drawn by the thump of a distant beat and the flicker of candlelight, Usher crept down a corridor he'd never noticed before. A polished brass handle swung open to reveal masked figures moving in ritualistic precision, each gesture a silent command, each breath measured. Camera shutters snapped in the darkness, and clipboards bore guest lists thick enough to double as legal documents. No one spoke, no one invited him in. When a hushed voice finally ordered him back to bed, he obeyed, heart hammering, but sleep fled him that night. In the hush of his room, he understood. This wasn't about melodic runs or choreography. It was about submission.
What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Weeks bled into months, and Usher's 15th birthday arrived under a Caribbean sun.
Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. Hey, yeah.
Diddy had arranged a songwriting retreat on an isolated island framed by swaying palms and crystalline waves. Usher pictured long days crafting lyrics and fine-tuning melodies. Instead, the retreat became a proving ground for obedience. Mornings began with cryptic instructions. Watch, learn, don't ask.
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like...
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Afternoons blurred into evenings of silent dinners and starlit gatherings where the only lesson was compliance. When Usher hesitated over an order, Diddy's voice cut through the humid air. You don't ask questions, you learn by watching how grown men roll. Under that blazing sun and beneath the moonlit sky, mentorship twisted into manipulation, eroding the line between guidance and coercion. Back in New York, the legal team greeted him with polished presentations and thick stacks of paperwork. Among them was a non-disclosure agreement so dense it could serve as a doorstop. His mother, trusting the label's attorneys, co-signed without hesitation. Usher believed he was safeguarding Bad Boy's brand. Only years later did he unruffle the fine print and discover clauses forbidding him from describing private gatherings, naming guests he'd seen, or sharing any footage. That NDA bought him years of enforced silence and paved the way for encounters far darker than he'd ever imagined.
Definitely, man.
Say what up, Dr. Diddy. Say what's up. Say what's up, say what's up. Say what's up.
Hey, yo, you know when I get you, nephew. Yo, nephew, you don't acting like that, bro. What's up, man?
Say what's up. Say what's up.
What's up?
Get out of here. Yeah.
Man, yeah, what's up? You been feeling good?
Nah, yeah, man, feeling great, man. I mean, you know, considering all things, I think that, you know, it's really important that we unite right now. You know, I was just, you know, there's a lot of things that have happened.
In 2002, an invitation arrived for a private gathering at a hidden Hollywood Hills estate. Guests surrendered their phones at the gate and were handed NDAs with language stricter than any record industry contract he'd seen. Diddy leaned close to a guard, murmuring, "You're not ready for that yet," before opening double doors to a cavernous chamber bathed in shadow. Models and artists mingled among unidentified observers whose ties to music were murky at best. Beyond velvet drapes, masked figures enacted unspeakable acts that defied description and transcended cinematic fantasy. Usher's pulse thundered in his ears. He backed away and fled that night, shaken, vowing never to return. But the cost of defiance was already mounting. The next morning, whispers coursed through Bad Boy's inner circle like a current. Usher felt it before he heard it, the subtle freeze of opportunity. Deals that had been all but sealed evaporated. Tours he'd earned were reassigned. Industry insiders began to murmur that he'd become difficult.
I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you?
In Diddy's domain, submission was currency, and Usher's refusal to stay silent cost him his momentum. Years later, Usher watched this pattern ensnare a new talent. Justin Bieber, barely 15, drawn into the same flavor camp web. After one charged night at Diddy's Miami penthouse, Bieber vanished for 2 days, leaving his team frantic. When he resurfaced, hollow-eyed and tight-lipped, Usher confronted Diddy. "What are you doing to these kids?" Diddy merely chuckled, replying, "Same thing they did to me. It's how the game works." In that moment, Usher recognized a system, not a series of wild excesses, a deliberate cycle of power, silence, and control. By late 2001, the trauma eclipsed even his fame. Usher vanished from headlines for a week, checked into a private mental health facility in Northern California under a false name. Weeks later, in a New York hotel hallway, a flashback struck. The same scent of burning candles, the echo of low laughter, the faint click of a locked door. His legs buckled, panic surged. He was diagnosed with PTSD and spent 2 years in therapy, reconstructing fragments of trauma buried deep beneath chart-topping hits and red carpet smiles. It would be nearly 2 decades before he dared to speak. In the years that followed, Diddy's captive empire extended far beyond Bad Boy's roster. Usher uncovered internal emails outlining development deals, binding artists to 5-album contracts, master rights surrendered until age 35, and royalty spreadsheets showing millions of dollars owed. He named former Bad Boy artists Carl Thomas, Total, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack, each drawn close with promises of mentorship only to be discarded when their usefulness expired. He described demo tapes he'd seen destroyed on Diddy's orders, careers erased overnight when artists dared to question the regime. He recounted being offered eternal fame by a shadowy investor in a Miami suite, an offer that went beyond music, promising a legacy in exchange for unspeakable favors. He revealed how Diddy's legal team would issue veiled threats. "Remember who feeds you," they'd intone, or "watch everything vanish." When Usher finally took the stand in 2025, the courtroom fell into a hush so complete you could hear a pin drop. He presented yellow journal entries from 1998 and 1999 in his own handwriting, chronicling the early days at Flavor Camp. Loyalty keeps you on tour, honesty puts you back home. He detailed the moment he watched another young artist coerced on a handheld camera, footage later used as leverage to enforce silence. He read aloud the chilling transcript of an anonymous 2018 call, "Tell him to keep his mouth shut or we'll shut it for him." Every revelation landed like a seismic wave, reverberating through the room and beyond, across screens worldwide. Yet through each gut punch truth, Usher's voice never wavered. When asked if he believed his testimony could spark change, he looked directly at the jury and at the millions watching online and said, This isn't just about me. It's about a system that silenced kids for decades. And if we let those stories stay hidden, we become complicit. He urged viewers to reflect. How many voices remain buried beneath the glitter? How many young artists had their dreams leveraged as collateral in a game they never chose to play? In his closing words, Usher issued a challenge that cut through the roar of headlines and social media chatter. The next time you hear a platinum record or see a sold-out show, remember this. Behind the music, there may have been a silent war for an artist's soul. And when we let those stories stay buried, we're no better than the empire that built itself on our silence. He paused, letting the gravity settle, then leaned in and whispered, both to those in the courtroom and to the world beyond. It's time every story is heard, not just the ones that sell. And with that, he sat down, leaving behind a reckoning that would echo through the industry for years to come.